There we go. Here we are. I think we are getting ready. There we go. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Why is my camera so dark all of a sudden? So dark all of a sudden. Let me see if I can fix it real quick while we're sitting here. Looks very dark. I don't know, the lighting in my office, I just cannot seem to get right for some reason. There we go. Let's get a little brighter. Okay. Happy with that. There we go. Can't hear me? You should be able to hear me. Yeah, it was your volume. It was your volume, not me. It might have frozen. I was adjusting the camera for a second there. Lawnmower. I don't think we'll get the lawnmower today. We had a leaf blower yesterday. That was very exciting. We had a leaf blower. That was a good one. Let's see. Hold on a sec. One sec. You just tweak this again. Get this all moving. Okay, cool. Whew. How are you all doing today? I hope you are doing well. Thank you. Yeah. It's good afternoon. Good morning. Quieter. I'll move it a little bit here. One sec. Yeah. Let me fix my camera. There we go. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's do it. Let's get into it. It's been a while since we did the transfer table video. I think the last time we did it was when we went through the transfer table. When was it? It must have been like, was it before the FA Cup final? Yeah. Was it after? I don't remember. It was a while ago. But obviously a lot has changed. I was interested to revisit it because, one, start to narrow things down, see if there's anybody to add to the list, start to remove some, and I think we're getting a picture of it. I think a fair bit of it turned out correct, quite a lot of it actually, but as per usual, it comes down to execution, right? Give me 1 second here. Gotta fix something. Damn. What's going on? Comes down to execution. Why is it not letting me do this? Sorry, I'm just having a few issues with something here. Give me a sec. This. Sorry. My fault. I needed to fix something that I forgot to fix beforehand. Okay. Let me refresh this page. Okay. Sorry. I'm back. It's all here, right? Nothing's gone down. Okay, sorry, my bad. Yes, actually, I am South African. I just saw that comment. I must have missed something, but yes, I am South African. Believe it or not. Yeah, my dad is from South Africa, and his parents before him. Okay. Cool. So there was a lot on the list. I was looking at it the other day, and I saw some people like post pictures of it, like, oh my God, what happened? And that's how I often feel. Like almost every year, I look at it and I'm like, hey, this is this is how, this is how it looks. This is what happened. This is what we're going for. But then, do we get them done is always the question. No, I was born in Chicago, but yeah, my dad he's from Johannesburg. He was born in Johannesburg. And he lived in Cape Town a long time as well. Elon is not my dad. But yeah. All right, let's do it. Let's go before I get too distracted. We're going to play our normal intro video, and then I'm going to pull up the chart, okay? And then we'll talk about a few things. We'll talk about, who did I want to talk about first? Ugarte. I want to talk about Ugarte first. We will talk about that. So give me just a minute, and we will get right into the intro, and then we'll get to it.
Someone cooked here.
Okay, that's not the right one. There we go. There it is. All right, that was a different video. Cool. Let's pull up the list. Let's pull this up. So let's talk about the midfield first. Obviously, we don't have Ugarte on here, which is cool. That's a good sign. He was definitely somebody that United scouted in prior years, like last summer from Sporting. They've watched a lot of Sporting in Portugal to not buy anybody for a long time. And he was on the list of a lot of people's, a lot of people's lists and things like that. But he eventually, of course, moved to PSG. Now, one of the things we did talk about recently, which is where I'm suspecting this kind of came from, is that he's obviously represented by Jorge Mendes. And in some of the recent videos, we've spoken quite a bit about Jorge Mendes. And United having, Ineos having talks with him even before getting in, having some meetings recently with Jorge Mendes, him representing a lot of players. Obviously, there was Lenny Yoro that they were interested in, but we're going to remove him in a minute. We're going to go through and trim this way down now in a second here, because a lot of this, unfortunately, has kind of fallen off. But Jorge Mendes, I would imagine where this has come from, given that it's kind of mostly come from the France side of it as well, is Jorge Mendes perhaps looking at it and saying, yeah, let's, he's available, by the way. He's somebody that PSG aren't looking to use, and he's obviously going to try to get his player a move. He also has a vested interest in getting João Neves to PSG. I think they're the club leading the chase for João Neves right now. So, I think it makes sense to them to move on Ugarte and all of that. So in some ways, you got to be a little bit wary of these deals, of these types of names, simply because, could it be being played up a little bit more by the agent? Yeah, it could be. It could be. There's no doubt that is a possibility. That could be the reason. But there's also opportunities, right? One of the things that, is, look, and there's going to be a lot of debate about, the whole transfer policy, how it's going, where it's been. But one of the things that is true is, Ineos are not looking to spend massive money on a bunch of players, right? They need good opportunities. If Ugarte is available for 40 million, 35 to 40 million, which is a good range, then I think it makes it a fairly lower risk transfer. If it's a possibility of doing let's say like a loan plus an option or a loan plus obligation based on certain conditions, that would also be a low risk transfer. So those would be good opportunities should they become available. And I think that those are the types of deals that United are remaining, what would be the word for it? Like remaining. They want to be in the discussion for those types of opportunities. They want to be around it, especially when the midfield market and the transfer market, in general right now, is really tough. Last summer, it's interesting because United really didn't. There was almost no reports on this, but these are facts. Last summer, United made offers for loan plus options and loan plus obligations for like 5 midfielders. They were going around trying to offer them. They didn't have the money, but they kept making these offers before moving to Sofian Amrabat. They were talking about, Ezekiel Palacios. I've reported that in the past. Reason why he's in the red here on my list this year is I believe after having such a good season at Leverkusen, it's been mostly reported he's going to stay, sign a new deal, he's like one of their unsellable players. Amadou Onana, another one that we'll keep on this list for now, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But they Wesley Fofana, up here. Is it Wesley Fofana? Do I have the right Fofana? I get confused, but I think I do. That they made an offer for. So, they've been doing that kind of interestingly. So we'll come back to the midfield. I want to start over here on the right because I have some. I want to talk about Youssouf Fofana. Sorry, you're right, Youssouf Fofana. Wesley is the center back. Yeah, that plays for Chelsea, right? Yeah, my bad. So Wesley's the center back at Chelsea. Yes, Youssouf Fofana. So these are the mixture of things that they're looking at. But let's start on the right side, at the right back situation, because this is kind of an interesting one. I didn't think necessarily that we'd get anybody, but I want to change how we do the list and how we define it, okay? Because in the past, what did I end up in green? I don't really remember exactly. When we did the striker one, right at that point in time, it looked like practically nobody. But since we're in summer, I'm going to only put them in green. Like I put people in green I didn't think we would sign just because I thought they were high up on our list. So what I'm going to do now is green is going to be based on kind of the info out there, my understanding of things. I'll try to put green as, interest is there, decent, good chance of signing them, right? Yellow will put that interest is there, not so good chance of signing them. And then red would be interest is there, but very unlikely. And we may have positions where we're going to sign players where there's nobody in green at this point in time, and that's okay. So let's start over at right back here just to make it a little bit easier. I want to talk first about Wan-Bissaka. Because Wan-Bissaka is, obviously for a right back to come in, we need to move on Wan-Bissaka. And this budget, by the way, as I said before in videos, maybe just an estimate. I think it's probably a little bit lower if I'm honest, but it does depend on the sales. Like if you sell a McTominay, it's going to have a bigger effect on your budget than selling, like an Eriksen, right? Even if, not saying they go for the same amount of money, but or then selling because of the profitability and things like that. So it's probably realistically closer to this based on the types of sales and players that we're looking at. But let's start at right back. Just it's kind of unfortunately come down, my concern over what we're going to be selling and where we're at. I think that it's come down a bit because I think, the finances are we need to, we should actually get some third quarter finances from the club and all of that, which could kind of help explain a few things. But I don't think we can spend as much. Just the message as we've gone through summer has been more and more like tightening up a little bit. But let's see. One sec. Let's start at right back. My bad. I'm letting myself get too distracted by questions. And that's why I try not to. Starting at right back, Wan-Bissaka. Okay, Wan-Bissaka. He is, right now, definitely somebody that a lot of clubs are interested in him. There's quite a few clubs interested in him. I believe it was Galatasaray interested in Wan-Bissaka. United are looking for somewhere around 20 million for him, okay? And I think he would go to Galatasaray, but they, they haven't, Jose, is he at Galatasaray or Fenerbahce? Fenerbahce. He's at Galatasaray, right? But yeah, I think Wan-Bissaka would go there. United are looking for about 20 million, which is too much for them at this point in time. Too much for them at this point in time for Galatasaray. He's at Fenerbahce. Okay, cool. But it's too much for him. And so he's got Fred. Nice. Okay, cool. Too much for them at the moment. There's interest from other English clubs, including West Ham. There would be West Ham, Everton, perhaps. There might be others. West Ham for sure. Galatasaray. He's probably not going to go back to Palace. United had proposed, or we'll talk about Braithwaite in a minute, had proposed including some players in the deal for Braithwaite, and I think, Wan-Bissaka might have been one of those. Lindelof, one of those. But those were not, they didn't reach agreement on that. But Wan-Bissaka, there's interest from quite a few clubs. If he goes, then they will look to bring somebody in. Still, the question is who. There's been nothing on Kyle Walker-Peters. And that wasn't a name that we were even linked with. It was just, I had names on here that I was including that I would hope they were interested in, like when we go to the left over to like Maatsen and such. But Dumfries there, I'm going to put in yellow because there's still interest in him. And I said there was a lot of interest in him. And, I think there was a confirmation, was it from Laurie or someone in The Athletic, that last summer we tried to swap, to sell Dalot and replace him with Dumfries. He's not just a Ten Hag target, but he's somebody that Ten Hag likes. Coyote, you're right. That was the name that I didn't mean to add here. That I have said that United have watched. So if Wan-Bissaka goes, then we could throw in, potentially those two names. Let's go West Ham, Gala, Everton. Let's do that. Let's do this. There. Cool. That adds to our chart. So, yeah, I don't know that this would happen. I don't know that there's I wouldn't be necessarily a fan of this. I would be a fan of it if we were to move him for someone like Coyote, but not necessarily for someone like Dumfries. It doesn't make sense to me. I think Dalot is your guy, and Wan-Bissaka brings something different to the table. So that would be interesting there. Yeah. So we'll see, but that's kind of in this area. I'm not expecting us to necessarily do business here, but if we're getting 20 million plus, then I think we get some profitability on Wan-Bissaka. With he's the +1 triggered. There's a little bit of on the books from him, but we should get, if we sell him for 20, 10, 15 million in profit. And thank you. Good idea. We should get 10, 15 million in profit, and that would allow us to do something with it, because that would fund, kind of a transfer. But I'm not thinking that is likely at this point in time. Okay, so if this happens, these are some of the clubs interested in him, and there may be more, but those are the ones I'm aware of. And then, we'll see. Moving up to right wing, Olise, gone. Obviously, cost too much. United didn't get into the race. didn't solidly get themselves in the race at any point in time. Still haven't moved on Greenwood and Sancho. So let's move this up here because we have more ifs. If Greenwood, Sancho sold, plus maybe we even need to do more here. Like this is like whether we sign anyone here or not, I'm not no long, you know, just there's a lot of ifs on this one. Like if we outline this scenario, we need Greenwood sold, we need Sancho sold, we probably need Pellistri sold, we probably then depend on, you know, because we still have Pellistri, you know, what's going to happen to him, you know? You know, we need to do something with that. We can't have a Pellistri, Ahmad, Anthony all there not playing. Like there has to be more outs. Williams, I don't believe is an option. I'm not gonna. Nusa, not an option. Pino, not an option. Marcus Edwards, I've mentioned him before, so I'm gonna stick him in here, and I'm gonna put both of these in red. Whoops, because I don't think we're gonna sign either of them. Malin's not really a right winger anyway, but you know, Ten Hag is interested in him. Nico Williams, the issue is he's what, 50 million and he wants like 250,000 a week. That's quite expensive. I don't think Due is, I mean, I can put him in here just because there's interest, but he's going to be quite expensive and I don't see us being in the market for that player. So we could put all these in red, and then if a whole bunch of stuff happens, you know, then there would be a chance. We're not really interested in Bakayoko as far as I've heard. Really don't see much happening here. I think the reason that they wanted to see Olise is because, yeah, not doable, because he's such a top player that if you could get him, you want to be involved, which is why we were interested in kind of trying to hang around it. But I don't think they're going to go and spend a bunch of money here when it's not a position of priority on a player that they don't think is absolutely top at this point in time. You know, you would need a big, significant departure of somebody else at the moment. Moving over to striker, we're going to get a striker. It seems like we're not in the race for Guirassy anymore. Roque, it seems like he's going to stay at Barcelona. There's been nothing on Dallas. I mean, I'll leave him, but there's been nothing there. Joselu's gone to Saudi. Sesko was always, unfortunately, even though a good target, was unlikely because of other reasons, and he stayed. Petkovic, there's been nothing. Tony, there's just nothing on this at the moment. But let's go to DCL. Let's put Xerxes up here. I'm going to put David in the red. We're going to buy a striker of some sort, right? I mean, that's obvious. I'm going to put Tony here and Brabi here. And I'll explain this in a minute. I will explain this in a momento. We haven't been linked. Like, I don't want to put guys that we're not really linked with. You know what I mean? 1 second here. Okay. So in terms of the list here, Xerxes is full on, very much the top choice at striker. And this is something I've talked about quite a lot, but because of his unique profile and the unique opportunity of him being, 35 million pounds for the release clause, so you're getting a deal around there. And, yes, there's complications with things like the agents. I'm not sure as much. We haven't been shut down in the conversations as of yet. The expectation still of, good reports on this is that we'll just go and trigger his release clause or make the proposal after July 1st once it's active. I think we're in the running for this. I'm not saying green means we're better placed than anybody else, but when you look at the options, I think we have a chance of Xerxes. I really do. I don't think we would continue to be involved in this discussion if we didn't have a chance of it. It's not active till July 1st. It's not done to anybody at this point in time. And, it's still a huge interest to United to make a good proposal that works. And we have a chance. It's not ruled out. There's not no chance that this is happening. It very much could. It very much could. Obviously, yes, there's Milan and all of that, AC Milan involved and everything, and that's fine. But United have a chance at it. They do. Second, and I think he's a big target in terms of the profile, in terms of the price, in terms of all of that, where because you were getting him on a good deal, potentially you could give better wages. I mean, I think you could beat AC Milan on the wages, and sometimes that helps a little bit. But they've remained in the discussions with his representatives. They're looking at moving forward with a deal. They may trigger the release clause. They may propose something a little bit different. That's around the same price, which is pretty normal with release clauses, just from a cash perspective. They may propose a slightly different deal. That is not unusual, but that's one of the things that I've heard is they're considering proposing something slightly different. But it may be simpler to trigger the release clause, but they're considering whether to do that or do a slightly different deal. I would wait until July 1st though, and then after that we'll be able to do it. In terms of the tax thing, I don't know how that works, but I doubt that, again, like if we're looking at it, if we can offer him 150,000, for example, which I think wouldn't break the wage budget, can AC Milan offer that? I don't know. I don't know what their financial situation is, but, I think the bigger question will be, and always has been, can we offer him minutes? Can we offer him the role that he would be looking for? Can we offer him, the type of, can we offer him the situation that he would like? And that is going to be something that, is going to take a bit of convincing. Hopefully they can. Let's see here. So they're working on it. I mean, they're working on it, and it's not off the table. It's not off the table for sure. I don't have solid links to other people than these names. There may be more. I'm telling you, this is what I can say that are interested in him. Why would we offer 150,000? I think you might have to. You might have to in order to, I think you might have to. So, in order to convince a player like that. Below that, Ivan Toney is of interest. Considerations, questions over his price would be number one. He'd have to be available more below 50 million for United to consider it. There's obviously questions over certain aspects of things about his character and all of that. But he's another one similar to Xerxes who fits into a bit of a different type of profile than what United have currently. And that's obviously one of the main things that interest them about Xerxes and Toney, is that they can fit in, offer something different, play a little bit more maybe in the vein of how they might have used Harry Kane in the past. So that's of interest. Brian Brobby, but he'd have to be at a good price. Brian Brobby's somebody that Ten Hag likes and would push for. We'll talk about the Ten Hag contract and all of that towards the end. And but not somebody I don't think the club would want to sign. I'm just including him on there because of that. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is somebody that has been watched, of course, by United for a long time. As far as I understand it, he's pretty low on the list because of price, age, weight, profile, injuries, all of that. I don't know that they'd actually go and sign him, if it got down to it. Jonathan David, somebody who has sort of been looked at in the past, but again is someone where they don't really like him. Ten Hag does. He's fairly affordable this year, but I'm not sure that they would want to stretch and sign him. I mean, again, we have to see what happens with Ten Hag's contract and how much influence he has on recruitment. He wanted to sign him even back at Ajax at one point in time. But I don't think we'd sign them. I have a feeling if we were in more, if we moved beyond Xerxes or Tony, that maybe we're getting somebody just like a stopgap instead, a loan, something like that. I don't know. Then to move on and spend the money on Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Jonathan David. David obviously also has interest from Chelsea, West Ham, and others. So we'll see there. But I'm not necessarily expecting that. Though I'm not expecting the guys in red. And so again, as I said, the red now is like I'm just not expecting something to happen. Let's move to the midfield, and then we can talk about, we're going to remove some names here. Thuram off the table because of the UEFA ruling, right? João Neves, Palacio seems off the table. There's been nothing on any of these guys. Archie Gray, I don't think has a possibility. That's been discussed. We'll move Dewsbury Hall way down here. We'll keep Onana up in here. The other issue, of course, with even if they wanted Dominic Calvert-Lewin is what are you doing? You're looking at Gerard Braithwaite from the same club. It makes it quite difficult. Zubamendi, I've heard they've watched for a long time, but I think he's a bit expensive. Hackney, kind of a young prospect, but there's nothing that we've seen there. So we've made kind of those initial looks at João Neves before. Onana is still of interest. Onana is still of interest, but again, the same complication that you have with Braithwaite is, are you going to be able to get a deal for a player like him? If you're trying to buy Braithwaite, is that price going to shoot up to 70, 80 million? I think Braithwaite is much more of a preferred target, and so that's going to make the price unreasonable. I'm still looking at João Gomez for United, someone that they've looked at in the past. I don't think a move has been made, but I think he'd be fairly reasonable. Yeoman, the price seems high, but he's a good player. Fofana, affordable. Here, hold on. So let's add Ugarte to the list now. And then the other thing I'm just going to add, just for the sake of it, is Amrabat. And then I'm going to add a conditional down here, which is here. Budget depending. Casemiro and Scott. Obviously, this is going to have a big impact on what we can spend here. I'm going to move some of those in a minute. Casemiro still wants to leave. He would still like to depart. He's still interested in going. He still had contacts with the Saudi director. United still want to move him. Somehow this has got to happen because it's not a good situation with Casemiro. It's not. It's not a situation where everything's just great and everybody's happy and on the same page. It's not a great situation. He's on big wages. I don't know what happens here, but I think he's going to have to push to go somewhere and accept, reduction in salary, likely to go anywhere in Europe. But I don't know what the possibility is, because I don't know what is out there from other clubs. But United would still move him, and he still wants to go. It's tricky. There's obviously conflict between him as well and a manager, and that's fine. Casemiro, I don't think, is what we need anymore at this point in time. Yeah, the problem, I just don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of interest in McTominay as well. There was interest from Turkish clubs in McTominay as a potential to sell. There's interest from other clubs in England from McTominay, but he's going to have to be willing to make that kind of move also. The Saudi window opens in July 10 or something like that, right? It's not open yet, or 14. So maybe after that, we'll see a little more movement on Casemiro. I think that at the moment, the Saudi clubs don't know what they can spend and what they can do. So it's sort of an unknown as of yet. There's little things like you mentioned there, Hannibal, Donny, etc. that could add to this. But if we can't shift like Casemiro or Scott, then there's very little we're going to be able to do in this market in terms of the midfielder market. If we can shift Casemiro, then depending what we spend elsewhere, then it should open up a bigger budget here. So it's kind of very dependent on outs. Right now I would probably put everybody in yellow because I don't honestly know that there's any out and out favorite at the moment. We'd have to, based on the links, we'd even have to add Edson Alvarez into here, but he's also just had a significant injury. I think there's practically no chance of that happening because 60, 70 million, strong, a significant injury, not somebody that the club particularly like. I don't think there's really a chance of him. I don't know that there's an out and out leading target here, and it's very dependent. If you could move, like Casemiro on, then that opens up where you could spend a bit more money, where Onana, Gomez, Yeoman maybe become more of an options, whereas if not, or depending on what you get, how much comes in, then you're probably looking at a bit of a cheaper option. Ugarte, it's still a bit early to say whether he's a top target or not. There's certainly some talk still about Amrabat potentially staying. Again, as I mentioned before, previously they pretty much decided that wasn't going to happen. But if they can't find a better option, I don't know. Maybe he will. If they don't have enough money to do it. I still don't think he will. I certainly don't think they want to. But those are some of the concerning things. They'd previously essentially decided not to, and now they have. Now it's sort of twisted the reporting on it from people saying, maybe he will stay. I still don't think he will. But it feels like perhaps he's sitting there as almost a total backup plan to the whole thing. I don't think that would be great. The budget is tight because of it's a little concerning in general the way that it's gone. They've made a lot of targets. They've moved on a lot of players, but in terms of actually moving forward on a lot of them and getting it kind of over the line, it certainly feels a bit slowed. Now, it's pre-June 30th. This time finances are really tight up until at least July 1st, and it gets better. A lot of clubs right now are looking at raising funds for FFP or for PSR for this year. That's what they're working on getting deals done for, so they may be more open to advancing discussions later. I think we will move on some of these deals and get some done. But I think it is also becoming, obvious that they have missed on some players. They have, a lot of the financial issues really have very little to do with, unfortunately, the new owners, but a lot of what's happened. Things are behind. I mean, the manager thing took too long. As I said before, kind of step 0 would be confirming the manager's situation and having agreement on everything. Even if they agree to Ten Hag's deal by the end of this week, that means it took until basically the end of June, early July, start of July, in order to finalize the manager's role at United. And that is taking too long. But it's a little slow. There's a lot of time left in the window. I do think come next month, things will roll around and they'll move on these things. I think we will put that bid in for Xerxes, and I do think we will move on to center backs. And once we can move Greenwood on, which there's a lot of interest in, and I think that that will be probably after June 30th, because they're not going to want to spend that money before June 30th, the other clubs who are buying, then that will help to get the ball rolling, because that's maybe 20-25 million in profit. That's going to help kind of push things forward and enable us to move ahead. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Braithwaite, because I still think there's a very good chance of Braithwaite. I think there's a very strong chance of Braithwaite. I think he's, again, he's sort of left and right, and I think he'd essentially be coming in as a right center back, but can cover the left as well. I believe that we will put in a higher bid for Braithwaite. I have not heard we've walked away from the talks. We've continued to make proposals. Now, we made this 43 million, 35 plus 8 million bid. Essentially, that's all we could offer before June 30th. We also offered to include players, and that tells us, look, we are willing to value it higher, because what do we value Lindelof at? 15 million maybe? So if you would consider that we are adding Lindelof to that deal, that means we're willing to go up. You see, that's why I'm encouraged, and I think we'll make a better offer. If we were willing to make that offer and like a Lindelof in there or something like that, one of those players, or Wan-Bissaka, when we're valuing them at 15 to 20 million, then that means we're willing to do a 55 to 60 million deal. We just can't pay for it at the moment. So if we move on Greenwood, that frees up space, then we could make a bigger offer. And I think that we will. I think we'll make a bigger offer for Braithwaite. I think he's far and away, out and out, still the top target at center back, and the person that they feel fits, the guidelines for what they want to sign and who they want to sign and what they want to spend this summer as of now. So I'm not at all. I wouldn't rule. I'm not taking Braithwaite down even a little bit on this. I'm probably going to move him around just to the right center back at this point in time, because I think effectively that's what he is. But I think that, yes, once we get after July 1st, once Greenwood moves, or if we have that deal lined up, then that can trigger us to make a bigger offer for Braithwaite. And I think we could offer him, we could offer a deal for, 55 million or so for him. I think we will make a bigger offer. I really do. That's not just opinion, but certainly some information that we will, move a bigger offer. We still need, obviously, a little bit of Everton to play ball, but the discussions have not gone down, the discussions have not fallen off, I guess I would say. They've continued. We've not pulled out of the race. I think there's still more to run on this, and I think it's somebody they still really want. So Braithwaite will stay there. I haven't heard anything on I think moving down the list here, Kilman. The problem with this is that Kilman, he's being chased by West Ham, by others. You're talking 45 million for him. If you could pay 55 for Braithwaite, you're not dropping down to 45 for Kilman, right? Inacio, same story. He's going to be 50 million pounds. If you offer 60 million for Braithwaite and they don't accept it, then sure. But if you're not going to move down 5 to 10 million for Kilman or Inacio. Kilman, who's quite a bit older, not as good. Inacio, who's much more left-footed and really can't play on the right. You're not going to move down that small amount for players who are less on your list. Guehi is a really good option, really good player, but he's also going to be 65 million at this point. You know, Palace aren't in need of money now, having sold Michael Olise. And, you know, that's an issue, you know, for sure. Every game, you know, he's playing in the Euros, his price is going up. So I think that keeps these pretty well down the list, even though they're really kind of admired. There's been no news on Tapsoba or Bastoni, so we're going to take them down. We'll keep these guys in the yellow for now. Over here, we missed out on Tosun. Didn't offer the wages. Deal was already agreed. Todibo, and this was obviously the major problem, is Todibo's the backup plan. If we couldn't get Braithwaite, we could go right for Todibo. Off the table because of the UEFA concerns. Lenny Yoro, we were very interested. He has now informed them he's definitely moving to Madrid, or he's staying, right? Scalvini, Torres ACL. Bremer, 60 to 70 million again, right? So you're saying, let's do this. If we cannot get Braithwaite, we'll go and pay the same amount of money for Bremer. I don't think so. Very unlikely, but he's still of interest. Anselminho, there was a little bit of a report that came out. We've talked about him before. There was a bit of a report that came out from Argentina about us being interested in him. I think that would be a really good signing, 20 million or so. Good young signing. If we can shift Lindelof and we can get Braithwaite in on a good deal, and we can get Anselminho as well, that would be a really, really smart purchase, in my opinion. Still of interest. I don't think he's likely, but still of interest. Simican, there's been no links. Silva, I think is still a real option. There's been some talk, perhaps, of Benfica not demanding that huge price for him. And if we cannot, not with Braithwaite, but if we cannot get a Braithwaite, then if we cannot get a Braithwaite, then I think he would be on the table, but they would have to, you know, be accepting a deal in that 50 to 60 range. Trevor Chalobah is a name. We've talked about him on different videos in between our last stream and this as being a genuine option, but he is lower down the list for sure. Backup, fallback kind of option there. No doubt about that. De Ligt, I had him a long time ago and took him off. I'm still going to keep him way down there because expensive, high wages seems impossible. You know, if you pay 45 million for De Ligt, he's going to be the same price as, 60 million for Braithwaite, 65. So I think very unlikely. So I think the most likely thing is still Braithwaite. I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think he is. You can say Calafiori all you want, but there's nothing linking him to United, and there's no way he's going to leave Italy, honestly. I mean, he's going to go to Juventus per Fabrizio. It's funny because nobody mentioned his name until the Euros, and that tends to happen a lot. I think at this point Maguire has become more likely to stay just because we don't have enough replacements, and he's really good. He's more reliable. Left back. These names turned out good. I mean, look at the green parts of it that we had. Braithwaite turned out right. Tosun and Todibo were the targets we wanted. The information was good. The execution was bad. I can't wait until that doesn't happen. On the left side, Ian Maatsen is gone. Balde's not leaving. Gutierrez, I think, had a serious injury. Robinson, the links are tenuous. Aït-Nouri, some links, but expensive. Kirkes is the only one. We had him in green. The interest in him was confirmed by Fabrizio as well. So that's our best bet at left back. We're going to have to sell some players as well, move some players out for this. But yeah, I mean, when you look at this list, right, overall, it's not that these aren't good players. I would take Braithwaite, of course. Good player, good long-term signing, somebody who I think makes a difference now and in the future to partner Lissandro and to fit in the team. I think is a really great player. Xerxes, I think, makes a lot of sense at striker to give you something different, and who's got a lot of potential, who could really help round things out and give us a bit more of an attacking threat. I really don't like that we only have Rashford, Højlund, and Garnacho up front, and then it falls off really hard there. If you add Xerxes into that, at least you got 4 good forwards. You need at least 4 good forwards, and so that would be great. Kirkes, I think, is a really good left back if you're going to start thinking about moving on from Shaw for the future. I think that's the level of left back you need. It's going to be hard to pay for him, but I'm not sure. And then in the midfield, honestly, if we get any one of these names in the yellow, besides maybe Amrabat, I'd actually be pretty happy. I know that, it's not particularly exciting, but I think they're all solid players. Ugarte, João Gomez, Onana, Yeoman, Fofana, Neves. I'd actually be happy with any of them. If we can move on Casemiro and Scott and get any of those players, would you be unhappy with that? I mean, it's an improvement, right? I'm not saying there's not more work to do. I'm not saying that there isn't more that needs to be done to fix the team, but I'd be quite happy with any of those names, actually. I think they would all improve our midfield a lot as partners for Kobbie Mainoo. And I think that would be really good. I'm not saying Casemiro and Scott. If you got Casemiro and Scott out, then yes, you'd probably want to get 2 of them. There's been really no links to Rabiot at this point in time, though he's leaving Juventus. There is more to sell. There's more to move. We know it's not enough, but it's the reality of where United are at. Let's take a look at our list. If Qatar took over, would be no different. It has nothing to do with the money. This is about financial restrictions, right? This is about a rebuild. It's about clearing the decks properly, getting rid of everybody we can, maybe being a little bit lean, but getting in the right profile of young players. Braithwaite, young, exciting player. Kirkes, young, exciting player. Xerxes, young, exciting player. That's the kind of thing we need in. We know they're not the finished products. We know they're not the top players, but I think this is the direction that we're going. Financially, United are paying for the mistakes of the past. If you look at here, let's just look at if you look at how the financials work and the things that we don't know about all of it, right? I'll just explain a little bit. In 22, the 21 was the COVID year. In 22, we lost 115 million pounds. In 23, we lost 29 million pounds, okay? I'll talk about Ruud van Nistelrooy and Ten Hag in a moment. That's 145 million pounds. And one of the things that has happened and that the club are really cognizant of now is you can seriously get points deductions. United were on the cusp. I mean, with a small penalty on the FFP PSR thing last year. From 2011 to 2020, United were breaking even or better or profitable most years, okay? They were breaking even or profitable when you look at it. No danger, no risk. Then it goes really bad in 21 with COVID, really bad in 22, and bad in 23. This year's going to be a little bit better. The maximum you can lose is 105 million with the investment that Jim Ratcliffe has put in and such that has raised the loss limit to 105. But they're basically up through June 30th going to be right at that level. That offer for Braithwaite is all that they can offer. Next year, it will be better. It will be better. But they need to continue to make those improvements and not let things get out of control again, because it's not just getting it back to okay. You need to stay below that limit. It's over 3 years, 105 million. That means you know, if they're breaking even and they go and spend too much, then they'll be well over that limit. And yeah, I know you can only lose 105 million over 3 years. I know, but that's with owner investment, so it makes sense a little bit. Like, you can put money in, you can only lose 15 without that owner investment. So essentially, it's saying the owner's allowed to give you 90 million over a 3-year period. But these are serious rules. So you're seeing clubs get points deducted and things like that. The issue is that you have other clubs like Chelsea and all of them who have things set up to skirt the rules with the way that they sell their academy products and profitability and things like that. It has nothing to do with Ineos's ownership. They've put 200 million into the club. That's more than the maximum allowable investment. It has nothing to do with the cash for it. It literally doesn't. It doesn't, and it makes no sense to say that. There's people who have done analysis on this, but they've left out a lot of important details. The good analysis on it says it's tight up through June 30th, that it definitely, I know there's a lot of financial experts and directors of football. There's a lot of freedom after July 1st improves, but you also have to bear in mind, you're talking about now in the future. You don't just go spend 300 million now just because you can. You want to buy the right players, and so that the next year you can buy the right players. The next year you can buy the right players. You don't want to just go and spend everything all at once. So yeah, after July 1st, could United go spend 250 million? Probably. But that doesn't mean they could do it again next year if they do that. You see, that a lot of the thinking goes, well, they have 250 or 300 million in space, but when you buy those players, they factor into 5 years of amortization, not 1 year, 5 years. And so you start going and spending that money. Well, do you want to buy 250 million in players if you're not totally convinced on all of them, and then next year you don't have any money to spend? Probably not. Probably not. You don't. You want to get the players you're convinced of, and not. No, you don't want to spend big now. That's the thing, because you just got in, and it is understandable in that respect. Don't blow next year's budget this summer. Okay. First of all, you're not in Champions League, so you can't convince players like Olise like you would want it to. If they were going to spend big now, they would have been in that race. Okay. Get back into Champions League. Get the revenues higher, and then go big. Once you have, your whole team into place. I'm not saying don't spend anything. I'm saying you don't blow next year's budget this year when you're not prepared for it. When you still have, you still have things like you have to agree to the manager, and you're still trying to shake things up, and you just finished 8th, and you're not certain on all of these things. There's a lot I would want to be more certain of before they go and spend all this money. You want to get that game model in. You want to get in the style of play. You want to see that you're progressing, so you really know who fits. You may even want to clear the decks a little bit more. So there's a lot, I think, that you want to do before you go spend all your money this summer. You could, after July 1st, go spend 300 million, probably. You can. But that will limit you next year, and that will limit you the year after that. And I think that there is a sensibility in not going crazy on those things. It does get better next year where the bad year kind of falls off. But there will be that where the bad year falls off and it improves. But if you go and lose 50 million next season where you're not in Champions League because you spent 200 million, then you're right back in the shit. Right back at that limitation and can't go spend more again, and you're stuck with them for 5 years. We got here because 75 million on Sancho, that's been useless. It will limit us. If we spend 300 million now, you got to understand something. 300 million in transfers, okay? Let's do a little bit of math. 300 million in transfers. We're going to break even this year, okay? About break even, close to that. If we go spend 300 million, that's 50 million, 60 million in amortization, plus the wages getting added. That means that immediately we're down 50 million from breaking even. Revenues may go up a little, so maybe we lose 40. Well, next year then we're looking at it and saying we've lost 40, we've lost 0, we've lost 40 the year before. We're again right near that PSR limit. We need, and then everyone, and you have those players on there for 5 years. Everyone that we get needs to be a win, and we need to do it right. So we need to buy good players, the right players, and move things forward. There's a lot of limitations. There just are a lot of limitations. The reason what happened here is twofold. Okay, number one is COVID. You know, even the Glazers, right? For all they have tons of faults. Manchester United was a cash machine essentially. It's so big, has so much of a fan base, has so much, you know, Old Trafford sells out always, right? And makes a lot of money, biggest ticket revenues in England, right? If I'm not mistaken, I'm sure that is correct, but the biggest ticket revenues in England, and it will remain so. So COVID had a bigger impact on United than anybody else because of the loss of ticket revenues. The second thing is we had our worst transfers, right? With Casemiro. I mean, you look at it, Sancho, Ronaldo, Varane, Casemiro, Antony, it's like 400 million plus a lot of wages spent in that period where now we're looking at them and saying they're either gone or we can't use them and we're not getting much in return. That's bad. You know, that was a lot of that was spent on credit. A lot of that was spent on credit during COVID, right? And when we couldn't afford it, a lot of that was spent on the credit lines. So that's pushed things in that financial situation where it's really bad. Now, they never had the money. I'm not saying the Glazers were good owners. I'm saying they kept it even profitability-wise until COVID. There was never any money to pay down debt, never any money for the stadium, never any money for investment, for sure. But they kept the profitability even. And a lot of things did stagnate behind the scenes and on the infrastructure-wise, but we weren't losing money. The problem is the credit is just cash, right? But that's why we had those huge losses. We can't have those huge losses because of PSR. So it doesn't matter how we spend it. It's going to count against PSR. So, yeah, fair enough. Someone just said Everton want to sign Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka. I've mentioned that in the stream, that's been something that's been mentioned by us. But I don't think that was Alex Crook. I think that was Graham Bailey or somebody. But so, you know, these are tough things to crawl out of. These are tough things to crawl out of for United, and the biggest thing is they can't get it wrong. They don't want to go spend 250 million when they don't even have a director of football in place, when they've had the uncertainty on the manager, when they've had an eighth place finish, when they don't have Champions League, when you know to convince those players when you don't have Champions League and when you're struggling, you might be having to pay over the odds on wages, right? And that they don't want to do. They don't want to just convince players because of wages, because the project looks bad. If they can get the project looking good, then it's easier to convince players to join, and if they're in Champions League. So I know it's a hard discussion. I'm not making excuses for them because I think that, like, I have positivity in the long term with Ineos. I think this summer they made a big mistake on the Ashworth thing, on not getting him in, on being reliant on him. I think the manager thing, they took too long. On that front, you know, obviously some of the major factors were, one, they wanted to look at assistant coaches. Ruud van Nistelrooy looks like a serious option. Makes a lot of sense. I feel like that's common ground for United. Somebody very different to Ten Hag personality-wise. Has English experience, obviously. Knows and gets the club. I mean, not that dissimilar to bringing in like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as an assistant, right? I would be for that too, you know. But has manager experience. All of that. Mario, you have no idea what you're saying. There's information, and it gets so annoying continuously hearing that when I'm saying things that are informational, that have nothing to do with anything. accept that information. Ten Hag was resistant in the past to having a manager put upon him. That was confirmed in The Athletic as well. But the leadership team looked at that from March as a potential idea, getting an assistant in. There's talk of Gary O'Neill. When we talked about it in the past, I said that it wasn't about them being English, because that was something that kept getting reported. It was about them having English experience and being able to communicate well with English players and in the English language, because it's still the most common language that everybody speaks. Certainly meets Van Nistelrooy. Van Nistelrooy fits all of those things, but he's also, of course, Dutch. And so I think that, that's probably, there's good common ground here where he would fit what United would like and be acceptable to Ten Hag. Am I saying that means they're going to sack him and replace him as an interim? No, I think it's very presumptuous that people saying that kind of thing. Certainly, though, it's a possibility. It's not. You have to have that thought at the same time that if it goes really bad with Ten Hag, then you have somebody ready-made to step in on an interim basis. I don't think on a long-term basis, but on an interim basis, to where the season may not be a total waste. But I wouldn't say that's like the primary thinking. The primary thinking is to make it work. The primary thing is to make it successful. But that was one of the key points. They wanted somebody else in there, and that will help with getting agreement. There's a lot of other things they have to sort out. You want somebody in there that you can talk to about, the style, like the style of play, about players, about how you utilize them, all of that. Because there's been a lot of unhappiness with players and things like that. And they all want to be aligned. Some of the other things they'll probably want to agree on, obviously, are the veto in the contract on the recruitment side of things. And then as well, what was the last thing? Clauses, if there's going to be break clauses. Because if they're extending the contract, then, I'm sure that United will be looking at it and saying, hey, if this doesn't work, we don't want to pay 3 years of a contract out. We want to have, a way to get out of this. I think they'll want to do that with a lot of things. Rude knows Gerrard as well, right? Which is good sign. So hopefully we get that new contract done, because I think that getting those agreements in place for Eric to be the head coach gives us the best chance of success. And that would be the ideal way for everything to move forward. Benny McCarthy is still at this point set to leave. Like, there's been no new contract offered to him. There has been talk of Van der Gaag leaving because, and maybe Van Nistelrooy is replacing him, but that's sort of up in the air right now. And if we don't get signings now, Ten Hag just has an excuse if he fails to get Champions League. I didn't get the players. Also, won't he expect backing with the new contract? I also feel no Ashworth effect strategy. Yeah, and that's all true, but bear in mind this. A big part of the claim, right? A big part of the claim about why Ten Hag is staying, and his argument, that supposedly was a reason why he stayed, is that if the players were healthy and it was just about injuries, then they have a very good team. So if that is the case, if they're getting a couple players in to replace like Varane, who's departing, obviously, then he should do well, even if we don't sign a bunch of players, right? If we're healthy. That was the argument. And I think that still has to hold up. If we're healthy next season, we shouldn't need a bunch of signings to not finish 8th. I think that's fair. I think that's fair on all parts. I think there's a reasonable understanding that we're not going to spend a huge amount of money, but we will spend money. We will get a center back. And we likely will get that striker in too. And I think ultimately, if we're healthy, but the argument is not that we're in 8th. The argument is not that we were in 8th. The argument was not that we have an 8th place team. The argument was that we only were in 8th because of injuries. So you should be getting top 4, or at least strongly, you have to be more successful than last year. And you won an FA Cup despite all of that. So, obviously, yes, if players depart, Varane has to be replaced. if Casemiro leaves, he has to be replaced. There's no doubt about that. I'm not saying you can get weaker, but if you don't need to spend 250 million to have to do better than last year. That would be crazy. That would be crazy. We should do better than last year if we didn't sign anybody. But for sure, if we can make a couple of signings, to replace Varane, then we should be better. But we haven't lost anybody else. We didn't have Sancho all year. Who have we lost besides Varane? We haven't lost anybody as of yet. Martial didn't play. So, no, I don't think we need 250 million to progress. So we have to do... we haven't lost people. Again, you claim I have an agenda, but you say we've lost a bunch of first-team players. Who? Who? Who have we lost? Excuse me. Who have we lost? We haven't lost anybody. Varane's the only one we lost. It is a big loss, but we will add a center back. So one way or another, we're going to have a stronger team than last year. It's not going to be a crap summer with a lot of players leaving unreplaced. We will replace people. But you don't need to fix the entire team to do better than last season if we're healthy. Who, again, have we lost, Mario? You all right. I'm getting bored of you. You're just saying shit that has no truth in the slightest. You can go as well. Like, people who say dumb shit and just say agenda, but actually can't suggest any evidence to back up what they're saying are just irritating, just annoying. Hawk to Thank you, Milad. I'm literally using like the facts of the situation, and then people will claim an agenda. I'm saying we should do better. I'll ban you too. Good luck. That's the benefit of having my own channel. Isn't that funny? So anyway, yeah, I think we should do better. I think we should do better than next year. Either way, we should, right? And I think that's fair. I think we have a much better team than 8th, and I think if we're healthy, then we do have a better team than 8th. James, what's your favorite Kendrick song? Probably Backseat Freestyle would be the one for me. So, all right, cool. Let me think if there was anything else I wanted to discuss today. Yeah, so I think the contract will get there. I think I didn't say we win the league. I said do a lot better than 8th. We have to progress and get top 4 if we were healthy. But yeah, to kind of summarize it, I think after July 1st we'll be getting Xerxes. We'll make the move for Xerxes anyway. I think that, and the other thing with Europa League next year is that there's no Champions League drop down. We should win it. Look at it. I mean, look at it. Who's in Europa League, right? Who is in Europa League next year? Lazio, Tottenham, Roma. Who's in it? We should win. We should win Europa League. We have to be the favorites for Europa League, right? When you look at who's in it, I mean, Spurs are probably the best competition. They never win anything. We're in it with Nice, Probably lose to Sociedad or something, but, Hey, Patron, good to see you, buddy. But yeah, so I think we should win it. I think we should. I think that's what we would be aiming for next year, is win Europa. That would be really good. So, what are the 3 players that we've lost, bud? Who are the 3 players we've lost? Yeah. On the injury front, the other thing that's going to be improving is, I think we will improve dramatically on the injury front. I never blame Ten Hag for all of it. I mentioned some of the reasons why, that would be, that they happen is not all. Yeah, and there's no Champions League drop down. I mentioned why a lot of the injuries occurred as well. There's other factors in this. I think that part of that is the new contract. That's why I want the new contract, because I think I really don't want Ten Hag to stay without a new contract. I want him to have a new contract because I think there's a lot of agreements that need to be made in there. And there's things that need to be improved in the situation that we have, and I think that would help the injuries a lot. There's things in the medical department that were really bad last year, frankly, and some of it I can't 100% say, but that were quite bad and were reasons people departed and people have been brought in, and that will help on the rehabilitation of players coming back sooner, less setbacks, things like that. But Darkest, man, tell me who the 3 important players are. That's all I'm asking you. That's all I'm asking you. Then being able to have a difference in how you're setting up training, things like that, that's stuff that that will make a difference, and that they're good at, that Ineos are good at, and that they're something that they know what they're doing. And then I think a lot of that will change, maybe I think that's why they want some influence on things. If they get younger as well, I think that will help with injuries. But that's why I say, you get Kirkus in there if you can, right, and get Braithwaite in there if you can. That would be good. I am concerned, yes, about Xerxes wanting Milan. I understand that's his priority. We've known that a long time, for sure. The issue has been, I think when I tweeted it at the end of May, the issue is convincing him. That's the job. It's been almost a month since then. They're still in the discussion, so I imagine they haven't been discouraged as of yet. Evans is probably going to stay. Varane is gone. He will be replaced. Amrabat barely played at all. Barely played at all. But we will get a midfielder in of some kind. King Rollo, how positive are you about this transfer window? Sorry, with regards to Evans, he probably will stay, But we also probably won't have Lissandro out the whole season, too. How positive are you about this transfer window? Can't see us getting 2 midfielders or 2 center backs, which is a worry. 1 attacker and maybe a left back, right back. Is that good enough? 1 attacker, center back, 1 midfielder, and a left back. Is it enough to fix the team? No. Is it enough to be stronger than last year? Yes. So let me summarize it because it's been a long time. So let's end it here. I'm going to summarize where we're at. Xerxes, I think, will move after July 1st. Braithwaite, I do expect we'll be able to make a bigger bid, especially once we can move out Greenwood or Sancho or get one of these sales gone. Greenwood sounds like we'll be getting somewhere pretty soon. Then we're working on Casemiro and Scott McTominay, which will determine what we can do in the midfield. If there's someone like Ugarte that can be done on a loan plus obligation or option, then I think that we will really be interested in that. We were interested in those deals last year. I think that would be a good option this year. But otherwise, any of those names on those lists are possible. There's kind of the 2 tiers of spending where you have the Onanas, the Neves, the Yeomans that are more expensive, and Gomez maybe, and then maybe Fofana or Amrabat or a cut price deal for Ugarte, depending if you can't get a lot of outs. And then again, depending on further sales of Wan-Bissaka, maybe you're looking at Dumfries or Coyote at right back. Depending again on how much money is left and what you've spent elsewhere in sales, can you get a Kirkes in or a second center back like Anselminho if Lindelof goes? Okay. Still progress. I'm still optimistic, but I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I think it's going to take a little bit of time to get these done. And I think a lot of clubs are focused on fixing their PSR before June 30th, which is slowing down, what we're trying to do. Because even if we're trying to sell, a lot of clubs are not wanting to buy from us before June 30th. They're trying to fix their financial issues. So still progress. I mean, things are still happening and all of that. They're still in talks over Braithwaite. They're still in talks over Xerxes. They're still working on these things. We just got to be a little patient, and let's see on this Ten Hag contract. The club wanted to have this done before the tour. There's still things to sort out, for sure. But I think it makes it a lot easier if it all gets agreed. And I'd be really happy to see it happen with Van Nistelrooy come in. Frankly, I'd be really happy. So I have my own concerns, my own doubts. I'm not making excuses, but I'm trying to remain optimistic about things because they're still working on it. And I know that they will get signings done. Okay, they will get signings done, and you know, and I think everybody will feel better once we get a win. But as I said kind of last week, they do need to get one at this point in time. So thank you all for watching today's video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. We'll do more. I'm gonna do a different stream. Just if you're still here, I'm gonna do a different stream on playback today or tomorrow. Playback TVs, kind of this new thing. And it's kind of cool. You can watch certain YouTube videos. It'll be a different kind of relaxed type of live stream. I'm gonna watch some of the players that we're linked with, like watch some videos, you know, with people. We can chat about them, things like that. I don't know. I think that would be kind of fun. It's just a different thing. There's no ads on that one. There's no ads at all. So it's an interesting idea. And a different platform that they've invited me to try out, which I probably will want to. So anyway, thank you all for being here, and I hope if I set that up that you'll watch there as well. And yeah, I will see you all in the next video. Thank you very much. Where's my ending one? There we go. All right, see you later.